was in Washington yesterday for the signing of the executive order by President Biden on the George Floyd Act, and which was a good day to mark progress in the country. I wish it would have been done through congressional action and not through executive order. So that was an important day, but there was an overriding cynicism in Washington that nothing will be done as it relates to gun safety. And that's a sad comment on our country. When the Supreme Court justices asked for protection for their children recently when Supreme Court justices had been threatened, it took Congress 10 days to come up with legislation to protect the children of the justices of the Supreme Court. Certainly one would think that they could come up with legislation to at least help protect the children of all of America in 10 days. But sadly, we're not seeing that sense of urgency from some members of Congress. So it's up to us, the people of America, to apply that kind of pressure on them and for them to pay a price if they don't put children above guns. It's really as simple as that. So let's talk about today, because today is an exciting day, and this is part of our country, you know, that we have highs, we've got lows, we've got tragedies, we have celebrations, but we always move forward. So today is an exciting day for Louisville as we announce plans for our really expanded 2022 Juneteenth Jubilee celebration. This year's theme is Our Story, America's Glory. This theme, chosen by our 16-member Juneteenth Celebration Commission, is specifically meant to remind us all of the importance of learning about that story and learning about our nation's history, the good and the bad. There's a certain irony that I'm up here as a white guy talking about our story, America's glory. It is our story of all of America, but particularly Juneteenth is about the story of Black America and how too often that is not at the forefront of people's consciousnesses. So it's particularly relevant in today's time. It's almost hard to stop and talk about one shooting without another shooting, but before the horrific action in Uvalde, Texas, we had the shooting in Buffalo, New York, just some week and a half ago. It was a racially motivated shooting, racial animus, racial ignorance. And we've got to recognize that bearing our heads into the reality of stories like this that have their roots in the original sin of America, which is slavery, racism, will only lead to more division and more hate, and not a country that can live up to the ideas that that have been espoused and we still hold dear and we still work toward. And my hope is that over our city's 9-day celebration, which begins Saturday, June the 11th, and run through Sunday, June 19th, all Louisvillians will come and learn and honor the promise of freedom for all that Juneteenth represents. Observed every year on June 19th, the holiday originated in Galveston, Texas in 1865, when soldiers gave residents notice of the end of slavery, nearly 2 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. It was called Freedom Day. But even as we honor that significant moment in our nation's history, we must also acknowledge that true freedom, the ability to achieve one's full human potential, is still not a given for too many Black Americans and too many Black Louisvillians. And while our country was built on the principles of freedom and equality, the many gaps that exist in America and Louisville between Black and white populations, longevity of life, home ownership, education gaps, income gaps, demonstrates that something's wrong, because everybody is born with the same potential. So we have systems in place, institutionalized in our country, that result in these deficits, in these outcomes. So that's inarguable. So we must understand that and then lean into that to make sure that everybody can live their full human life. So these values have got to be real and they've got to be meaningful in the lives of every American. And that's a fact. It's not a theory. It's not a political position. And we've got to face up to these facts and embrace them as all of America, especially white America. In my 3 terms as mayor, I've been committed to improving racial equity in our city. We created the Office of Equity to ensure that Louisville Metro government policies and practices, from hiring and promotions to procurement procedures, align with that commitment. We established a racial equity toolkit for Metro government's decision-making. We've trained all of our staff on advancing racial equity and established a citywide equity and contracting and procurement task force to focus on increasing the share of construction contracts to minority, female, disabled-owned business enterprises and wealth building in disadvantaged communities. We created Lean Into Louisville, and soon we'll announce plans for our Truth and Transformation initiatives. And then after the tragic death of Breonna Taylor in 2020, I declared racism a public health crisis and unveiled an advancing racial equity plan with 7 key areas for addressing equity challenges: public safety, children and families, black employment, black wealth, housing and neighborhood investment, health, and voting. Also, in 2020, I declared Juneteenth to be an official Louisville Metro government holiday. And just a reminder that since Juneteenth falls on a Sunday this year, Metro offices and services will be closed on Monday, June 20th, in observance of that holiday. And I encourage all businesses to recognize this holiday as well on June 20th. So I'm proud of the work that my team has done and our community is doing to create a city of true equity. But a challenge like this requires lots of partners and the involvement of individuals, groups, churches, and businesses outside of government. That's why all our work to advance racial equity includes a cross-section of people. You can see that with our 16-member Juneteenth Jubilee Commission, which includes representatives from Metro Council, the business community, arts, educational institutions, media, and many others. I'd like now to introduce you to the members of this team who have been working since winter to develop our family-friendly, educational, and cultural celebration events. Many of them are here today, so here's the members. Celeste Lanier, Senior Program Coordinator, University of Louisville. Al Cornish, Retired Chief Learning Officer at Norton Healthcare. Dawn Wilson, Coach and After-School Program Coordinator, Louisville Fencing Center. Barbara Lynn Jameson, General Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Kentucky Opera. Dawn G., Anchor and Reporter at Wave 3 News and host of Wave Country. Jerry Eves, Vice President of Athletics, Simmons College of Kentucky. Merrill Thornton, Adjunct Professor, Simmons College of Kentucky. Aaron Griffin, Director of Human Resources, Papa John's International. Dr. Shori Durrett, Assistant Dean for Medical Student Affairs, University of Louisville School of Medicine. Reverend Joshua Harris, Pastor, First Gethsemane Baptist Church. Reginald McDaniel, Coordinator of Educator Prep, Simmons College. Wallace Garner, President, Bread Entertainment, LLC. Alex Jones Jr., Proprietor, Owner, On-Call Notary Services. Carol Jones Clay, Senior Vice President, Managing Director of Community Relations at Republic Bank and President of the Republic Bank Foundation. And Metro Councilwoman Paula McCraney, as well as my office's Metro Council liaison and the chairwoman and founder of this effort, Wanda Mitchell-Smith, who's done an incredible job collaborating with the commission on behalf of the city. Let's hear it for all of our commissioners here. So I really appreciate all of the work with everybody here, and we promised last year that our commission would plan an even bigger celebration for 2022, and you guys have really delivered on that. The plans for this year's celebration, from opportunities to highlight black-owned businesses, encourage black entrepreneurship and wealth building, to showcasing the arts, health and wellness, along with meaningful discussions about race, equity, and inclusion. So now I'd like to welcome Metro Councilwoman Paula McCraney to share more about the history of Juneteenth and its importance here in our city. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Juneteenth, which is short for June 19th, is an annual holiday observing the end of slavery in the U.S., and it marks the day, June 19, 1865, when news of Emancipation Proclamation reached people in the deepest parts of Confederacy in Galveston, Texas. The announcement came a full 2 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, and in June 2021, Juneteenth became the first new federal holiday created by Congress in nearly 4 decades, and Governor Andy Beshear and our mayor have both recognized the significance of the Juneteenth celebration and have both declared Juneteenth a holiday. With Mayor Fisher's support and with the signing of an ordinance that codified Louisville's first Juneteenth Jubilee Commission, this year's series of events are bigger, better, and broader. And we can imagine what we could do when 16 wonderful community leaders get together and think of the impossible, the unimaginable. The creative juices that flow from these 16 commissioners is so relevant to today's celebration, and it is my distinct honor to be a commissioner and work with these fellow commissioners. We put together budgets, we look for sponsorships, and we create opportunities for the community to showcase their talents and their wishes to bring to you celebrations that matter. And so with that, we have a lineup that includes the Juneteenth Gala at the Ali Center and a Miss Juneteenth pageant at 4th Street Live. You'll hear more about that later. And our city's Human Relations Commission, an office that challenges all forms of discrimination, will be celebrating its 60th anniversary luncheon featuring Burnett Avenue's pastor, Dr. Daniel Corey Scholl. We're going to have a youth jamboree, and that's going to be at the Berrytown Park on that Saturday. We have an array of opportunities for our entire community to be a part of this celebration. It is not just Black history, it is our history. And we invite all of the community to come be a part of Juneteenth. And you can find the celebrations and all of the events on the website of the city's website. Thank you so much. We are looking forward to this event, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the events as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Now, one of the many Juneteenth Jubilee celebrations will host several of our budding artists, ages 7 to 12. So starting June 13th, the Juneteenth Art Camp, hosted by Louisville Visual Arts in Waterfront Park, will provide some of our little people with visual art instruction and activities on the covered outdoor patio of the David Caron Building. We're very appreciative of Waterfront Park's continued support of our Juneteenth celebrations. So let's hear more about that from Waterfront Park Director of Development, Ashley Smith. Ashley?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Juneteenth Commission, for all that you are doing in the community. You all should be really proud, and thank you, Wanda, particularly. Waterfront Park is honored once again for the second year to host the Louisville Visual Art Juneteenth Camp, sponsored by the Juneteenth Commission. This is a wonderful camp for these students. They'll be led this year by instructor Kayla Morgan, who will introduce the campers to the works of Ed Hamilton, Louisville's own Ed Hamilton, and they'll have an opportunity to study his work, his history, growing up as one of the nation's most renowned sculptors, and go down to visit the Lincoln Memorial at Waterfront Park. The campers will learn about Muhammad Ali, the Underground Railroad, and all sorts of history about Juneteenth. They'll then use this information and this new knowledge to create their own work. So they'll be working in all sorts of mediums all week long, and they'll have their very own art show at the end of the week. And I want to say thank you also to the careful curators of this camp at Louisville Visual Art, Desmond Stepp and Annette Cable, who work so hard and are so thoughtful about all of the information and material that will be going into this camp. And it's really a wonderful week, and I think it's a really special experience, and we're thankful for the opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashley. Now, Lean Into Louisville is another big supporter of this event. You'll recall the city launched Lean Into Louisville after the difficulty in Charlottesville, Virginia, when there were Klan members, skinheads, neo-Nazis walking the streets of Charlottesville. And when I saw that, I said, we're not Charlottesville, but we got to do something about this. So we created Lean Into Louisville to create a space for people that wanted to learn more about racism and hate and discrimination, primarily white people, but have an avenue to come into this conversation. And that's Lean Into Louisville was born in 2019 and has continued since then. Joy McAtee is the Lean Into Louisville project manager, doing a great job for us. She co-produced an event just this week on the Black Six at the Fraser History Museum, and she's now going to share more about a June 14th panel discussion on the impact of redistricting in Louisville. Joy?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Greetings, all. I do want to start off by thanking the commissioners for all their work and dedication to making this week-long celebration possible, and also extend a special thanks to Ms. Wanda Mitchell-Smith for all of the work that you've done to bring us to this point, and your exemplary years of service to Metro and as chair of this commission. Lean Into Louisville is focused on addressing and confronting the history and legacy of all forms of racism and discrimination, and Juneteenth provides the opportunity to celebrate this day of Jubilee in remembrance of our ancestors and the consummation of their freedom. Yet as joyous as it was, we must not forget that emancipation did not grant full access to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, as most would assume. An overwhelming number of newly freed Black men and women, boys and girls, remain subjugated to brutal living conditions and discriminatory laws that stalled their ability to thrive economically and socially. It is our collective duty to continue the fight for justice and equality, and to raise the banner on all such issues until equity is achieved for all. Lean Into Louisville will be hosting a panel on redistricting on Tuesday, June the 14th at 6:30. And it's my hope that all attendees and viewers of this event will leave the event with a full understanding of why redistricting happens, who it helps, harms, and the short-term and long-term implications for our city's most marginalized residents. Also, on Wednesday, June the 15th at noon, the Kentucky African American Civil War Soldiers Project has uncovered archival documents about the lives of Civil War soldiers and their family members, and use them as a basis for constructing family trees going as far back and as forward as possible. Dan Gatterman and Denise Payton will share stories and photographs about these selected soldiers from Louisville, as well as discuss their newly created online searchable database. And this event will take place at First Gethsemane Baptist Church. Again, we thank you so much for your commitment, Mayor Fisher, to making this possible, and we invite the community to come out and to lean in into these truly important conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Now, on Saturday, June 18th, Reviving Urban Neighborhoods, or RUN, will host a youth jamboree at Berrytown Park. So let's hear more about that from the organization's co-founder, Brandon Hill.
Hey, good morning. Special thanks to the commission, and then also thank you to Ms. Wanda Mitchell-Smith. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to take part in this with the city. My name is Brandon Hill, and I'm the executive director for Reviving Urban Neighborhoods. That's a nonprofit organization who, our mission is to support and revive the urban neighborhoods by supporting and generating opportunities that embody community enhancement. I'm here today to talk to you about the Juneteenth Youth Jamboree. So with that Jamboree, it's going to be held on June the 18th, Saturday, June the 18th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. With that, we're going to have free food and games, but we're also bringing in other community members. We're going to bring in Joe Adele Foundation. They're sponsoring free haircuts and hairdos for the youth in attendance. Metro United Way is sponsoring youth Juneteenth books that we're going to provide for all the youth there so that they're educated on what Juneteenth is and the importance of it. We're also going to have Norton Healthcare, who's going to bring healthy activities, and we're going to have like a educational field day. Free food and games will be there. DJ Empty Beats will be providing musical entertainment, and Juneteenth is a significant date in U.S. history, and one thing we want to do is highlight that it often represents like how black people in America, our freedoms have been delayed. So we want to provide something fun and healthy for the youth, but then also to educate them on the importance of this holiday. I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Brandon. Now, another big Juneteenth event is a hybrid worship service planned at 11 a.m. on Sunday, June 19th. Along with special selections of music and scripture, the Reverend Dr. J. Herbert Nelson II, stated clerk of the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church USA, will be preaching the service to be held at the Presbyterian Center. Reverend Nelson's been a great partner of our city, and we're happy to have him here today to provide us with an ecumenical view of Juneteenth. Rev?
The Presbyterian Church USA has had its headquarters here for about 30 plus years, and we're taking the opportunity during this particular time, since our opening of our General Assembly, which is our major meeting that we hold regarding our denomination, where we deal with a lot of overtures and other things of the General Assembly that takes place with business. We are taking an opportunity to open this year on Juneteenth with an understanding that we know that this day is an opportunity where we not only reach back, but which we also are aware of the fact that the church has a role with regards to the issues of emancipating people even in this present day. We're also reminding ourselves as to what our history happens to be in the United States of America and how we as people of faith are called in many ways to repent and to be really connected to the same types of systems that exist even right now in the United States of America, the prison industrial complex and other places by which freedoms are not necessarily being taken care of with regards to the issues of individuals who may even be there on things like misdemeanor crimes in our system with regards to the bail bond system here, not only in Louisville, but across this country. And so in many ways, we are celebrating the opportunity of freedom on one end, but on the other end, we are being reminded that the church has a calling, and that calling is to continue to press for the freedom of individuals who have been left behind, and even in this present day, the new calling to be able to walk faithfully in communities of hope and possibility rather than places of struggles and despair. And so we are opening our work up here in our General Assembly on its first day as the first order of business, and that is to worship together, to remember and to repent, even in the life of the church, of the wrongdoings that we have been accustomed to. And why? Because it is the right thing to do. And for us, it is the sacred thing to do. Blessings.
Our leader throughout putting all this together is Wanda Mitchell-Smith. She's our Director of Intergovernmental Affairs for our Metro Council here, and has been an incredible citizen for decades in Louisville in many different capacities. So we're really honored to have her chairing our Juneteenth Commission. So let's close with some final words from Wanda Mitchell-Smith.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. We are excited about what is getting ready to happen in our city to celebrate Juneteenth. But as Mayor said, there's more work to be done. So as we move forward during this week, we want to be able to celebrate, but we also want to be able to educate because our history is very profound, and we want everybody to know and understand that it is our story, but America's glory. Thank you so much.
Very good. All right, so in closing, this annual celebration really is an incredible opportunity to bring the entire community together. And if you're listening to this saying, well, that doesn't really apply to me, it applies to everybody, right? So whether you're white, black, brown, from the south, east, north, west, doesn't matter. This will be a tremendous celebration of collectively who we are here as Louisvillians. And when I see us come together as a community and reflect all the faces of Louisville, I always sense tremendous energy in the crowd. And that's what will be taking place throughout Juneteenth. So I encourage you all to come here. And if you'd like to view the full lineup of family-friendly activities, go to JuneteenthLou, so JuneteenthLOU.com. So again, I'd like to thank our esteemed commissioners and community partners for all the help putting this together, and we look forward to seeing everybody multiple times throughout the Juneteenth celebrations. Thank you.